The Passionate Leader, because leadership without passion is just a title.
Meeting. We got a collapse in the garage. Get the squad back equipment in here. We got an I-beam gone to a firefighter.
Get that out, urgent, transmit a second along.
This is where titles end and leadership begins.
Ask yourself this. When the uniform comes off and the noise stops, are you actually healthy, or are you just surviving on discipline, denial, and grit? We spend our entire careers mastering stress and danger, but almost no time learning how that stress settles into our bodies and follows us long into retirement. If you've never learned how to process pressure or take the machine that carried you through the fight, what is it really costing you? Karl Tyler also knows this cost firsthand. A retired Border Patrol agent with nearly 3 decades of service, Karl spent 20 years on the job, including 18 as a canine handler and instructor. He served as a special operations supervisor and canine coordinator for the Tucson sector, overseeing detection, patrol, tracking, trail, currency, firearms, and support canine operations in some of the most demanding environments in law enforcement. What separates Karl now is what came after the badge. Through judo, jiu-jitsu, yoga, strength training, and certified personal training, he shifted his mission from enforcement to longevity. He teaches and mentors with a hard-earned understanding that trying to please everyone is a losing game, that leadership requires political awareness, and that stress ignored will always collect its debt through your health. This conversation is not about war stories. It's about reclaiming who you are when the badge no longer defines you. Too many retire with a stripped identity and unresolved stress and no plan of what comes next. Karl challenges you to stop waiting and start intentionally building the body, mind, and identity that will carry you long after the job is over. Without further ado, I have stuttered enough. Welcome to the Passionate Leader, Karl Tyler.
How you doing, man?
Good, man. Thanks for hopping on. I am super excited to get somebody on because really what turned me on to what you had was the discussion about post-career retirement, what to do with it. And I feel that this is going to become more of a problem in the future because nobody really ever has, whether, given your law enforcement background, I'm fire service, but ultimately our jobs were the same. It's to help serve the public to which we are there to help. And when we're done, a lot of people don't understand what the hell to do with that spare time that we have. Before we dive really into it, I mean, I guess if you want to let the viewers and listeners know kind of a little bit what makes you tick, what you got, what got you into the Border Patrol world and everything like that.
Yeah, I don't know, man. It was a while back. It was kind of fluky. I started applying to a bunch of different law enforcement agencies back from upstate New York. So I started applying, and man, I was not getting any luck. And I think I was too honest because I didn't have a criminal history of any sort. I never got in trouble, and I didn't even do any kind of shady shit. I was pretty good dude. But I kept getting turned down, and I was going to college in Oswego, New York, and they were having a job fair, and Border Patrol was there, and I was like, "What the hell is this?" So they're like, "Hey, today's the last day for recruitment. Sign up now to take the test." So I did that, and I told my friends, I'm like, I just applied for federal law enforcement, and they all laughed, and we all continued laughing about it because there's no way I was going to get it. And then I got in, and that was I applied 2003, I got in 2005, and I retired July of last year.
Nice. Now, was the Border Patrol something you were aiming to do from the very beginning, or were you just looking to get in some form of a law enforcement background field?
No, I knew I wanted to get into law enforcement in some manner. Honestly, I think I didn't know anything about Border Patrol, being from upstate New York. They do have a presence up there, anywhere along the border, but I really knew nothing about it. And I knew it was federal, and it was a last-ditch effort. If I didn't get it, I was probably going to be done trying. And I got in. So I knew I wanted to do law enforcement in some manner. Had it not happened, I don't know what I would have done.
Yeah, I love it. So I mean, obviously canine handling. So that's a pretty robust. Now, I assume started in New York and then found your way out west where you retired, or did you retire out west?
Yeah, so I went from New York, my first duty station. I had a choice of Nogales, Arizona, or Blythe, California.
Mm.
And not knowing either, I chose Blythe. And probably, in hindsight, I probably should have taken Nogales. But if you know anything about Blythe, it's a truck stop on the way through to LA. They consider themselves to have a population of like 20,000 people, and I think they count the prisoners, which is a good probably 12,000.
Sure.
So
Yep.
yeah, so those are my choices. That's what I got. So I moved right from New York to New Mexico in Artesia, did the academy, and then right from there flew back to New York, packed everything I owned into a Volkswagen Golf, and then drove out to California. And that's where
Okay, I love it.
I was there for 9 years.
All right. How'd you manage to get into the canine and aspect of the world? That's always pretty neat for me. I mean, I think those are some pretty cool tool. I shouldn't refer to it as a tool, but like a canine unit
It's okay.
is pretty damn robust. I love that shit.
Yeah, no, it was cool. So I had worked with dogs most of my life. Everybody has unless you go in as a kid, but if I went in at 32, and so I already had a job and kind of a career going, and I was a dog groomer
Okay. All right. Hey.
before I got into the patrol. So I had worked with dogs for quite a while. It's actually how I met my wife. My wife was a dog groomer as well.
Nice.
But so I just was always around dogs. So I knew once I got into the border patrol, there's a lot of different routes you can take. And I knew I wanted to either do something to do with PT, some PT fit of some sort, defensive tactics, something like that, or canine, whichever came up first. And canine came up first, and man, there was no reason to ever drop leash. That was the best gig in the patrol.
Oh, that's so cool. So I got a question. It's more of a board. This is not even a career question. So this one actually, sometimes I do my best thinking when I'm just, like I said before we started recording, I was doing house chores before we started. And my full name is Jean Paul, and I've been to Canada. Oh boy. And this is more of a Canadian border patrol agent question. But so I have been flagged every single time that I go through. I've never once been able to get like what are you coming for? How long are you going to stay? And then they send me on my way. Every single time I always get pulled in for additional questioning.
Yeah.
Now, granted, yes, I know it's there. I've never once been flagged, knock on wood, so far, flagged coming back home. But I mean, what have you found that sometimes hangs people up, I guess, with the initial questioning and and stuff like that?
Well, honestly, I don't know, especially going into Canada. I don't know what their rules and bylaws and what their specific things they're looking for. But I can tell you this: my best friend, his name is William Frederick Jones IV. He's got a pretty generic name, Bill Jones.
Yep.
And he moved. We lived in Japan together, and when we came back to the States, he moved up to British Columbia in Canada. And every time he goes from the United States into Canada, he gets flagged, right? And they don't generally say why. They don't tell you what's going on. But through time, this happened so often, and he'd be trapped for like 3 hours at a time. There was a person from Canada named William Frederick Jones who was wanted for murder.
No way.
And so every time, it didn't matter that the socials were incorrect. It didn't matter that he's white and this William Frederick was black.
Yep.
Just they had to hash it out because it was somebody different each time. And it didn't matter what port of entry he entered through. It was the same thing. So I don't know if they've ever told you like your name matches, birth date matches.
Yeah. So, and it's funny. So long story short, we went back in December for a hockey tournament for my oldest in Montreal. And, we were joking. I'm like, I have as French of a name as you can get. I mean, you can't get Jean-Paul Royer. Like it's pretty damn French Canadian. And I jokingly, before we even started, I said to my wife, I'm like, we're going to get flagged. And she's like, no. Like she goes, you have a pretty good name. Like they probably think you actually live here. And, of course they pull us in and they're asking, and I was going to ask, but I'm like, at what point do they start to see, like, I just have generalized curiosity versus like, oh shit, what is he looking for? And So I'm like, let's just leave well enough alone, and we'll try to do some powers of deduction, like on our own, because it would be my luck that I would, inadvertently say something like, "Oh no," or try to joke. I mean, it's super friendly, never. Never
Yeah.
felt like I was, a detainee, but it was very much, the only thing I can say was, it was very short answer, and they were asking some questions, and I feel that they were trying to get her to answer the questions, and I was answering them instead, I believe. So maybe that could have been it. I
How
have
long
no,
how long would you be tied up for each time?
dude. So the first time was me and my cousin went up to a concert. This was back in like '03. It was probably maybe like 15, 20 minutes at the most. And it was probably about that 10 to 15 minutes this last time.
That's not too bad. That's not too bad. You must have a name that somebody did some shenanigans up
It
there
could
with the
be.
same name.
Yeah.
I know I went through so he lived up in British Columbia. I was married before. I have a daughter. She's 25 now. At the time, she's probably like 3. So I flew with her up to Seattle. My buddy drives down, picks us up, and then we're driving back north. And we're going up to Vancouver. So we enter Canada,
Mm-hmm.
and we're sitting there like, hey, whatever you need. And they're like, what are your names? So we tell them our names, and they're like, who's this in the back seat? I said, that's my daughter. And where is her mother? I go, she's in New York. Are you guys married? I was like, no. Well, right at that moment, I realized, oh, it looks like we're trying to kidnap this little girl.
Yeah.
So, man, it was like 4 hours.
Holy
They took us inside, and then of course my ex wasn't answering the phone.
Yeah.
They couldn't get a hold of her, and I didn't have the wherewithal. I didn't think ahead to like have a note written up or anything like that. So we were there. They separated her. They were interrogating her, and it was like I said, almost 4 hours, and they finally let us go. We're like, holy Jesus.
Yeah, and it makes sense. So because we had to do the same thing. So my kids are through my first marriage. So, we did the whole thing. Like, here's a passport, here's a letter that I acknowledge that they're going for these dates. So of course I ask, when I saw Obs, when I get up, Aubrey's my youngest, and I go, did you guys get stopped? She goes, they just asked us some questions, and then they said, have a great day. And I was like, well, that must be nice, because and we never even got pulled into any rooms. It was, walk into the counter. Here's our passport cards, licenses, sit down. They did ask a couple of, and it's funny because Shawnee, my wife, picked up on it. She goes, I'm the one that grew up in Pennsylvania, but they asked me how long I had lived in Pennsylvania. So I'm like, all right, whether it was an inadvertent accident where they switched up our licenses and our backgrounds, or if it was on purpose. I mean, it was one of the they asked her like, oh, so how long have you lived in Vermont? And I was like, oh, I'm the one that lived in Vermont. And then did the same thing with her for Pennsylvania, for me for Pennsylvania. Like, oh no, she was the one that lived in Vermont or Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if it was just like a try to, when I say try to trip you up, it's not a bad thing. It's, we're doing, and it's in for a reason, right? We want to make sure that we're not letting people in or out that have nefarious ideas or
And this was always you going into Canada, right? This was never coming back in.
Every single time going to Canada. I mean, and it's coming in like, I mean, when we came back through, I mean, the only thing that we grabbed when we were up there was a couple of cans of poutine. I was like, I mean, the only thing we brought back with us is great, poutine gravy. And they're like, oh,
yeah,
okay, have a great day. It's sometimes, man, it's just one of those things.
Yeah, and you get somebody, who knows, man, you get somebody that's like super 10-8, like on the line there, and is doing that. I'm going to catch somebody today. It doesn't matter who it is.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
You could get that.
But I think another thing that kind of screwed me too was I was not paying attention to vehicle spacing to the car in front of me. So I was like a toll booth. I was pretty damn close up their backside. So that could have been a little bit of a problem too. So I mean, I don't know. I'll have to try it again and see if I can change my odds, I guess. But
yeah. Change your MO.
Yeah, for real. Like, listen, I don't know who the hell you want me to just pull around to the side now?
Yeah, right.
But no, I mean, that's I think it's a pretty neat job, honestly, because I mean, it's there, and there's a lot of responsibility for what you had to do during your career and stuff like that, as far as making sure that everything was on the up and up, and there was no crazy shenanigans, I guess is probably the safest word to use. But so I mean, that's a pretty damn long career. So I mean, obviously, that's great. I love getting the different perspectives of different people.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because I was looking at some of your stuff, and since we made contact with each other,
yeah,
and I'm like, man, what what am I, you guys are all fire service guys. And like, what am I going to offer here? But you're like, no, that'll be good. That'll be good.
Yeah, dude, what I hate is the echo chamber, right? So, I mean, I could bring on fire service leadership guys for 52 weeks out of the year for 20 years. And eventually I hate wash, rinse, repeat, man. So that's why I love getting different perspectives. And what, like I said, in the beginning, what really opened me up was you are in a really cool spot where you're able to kind of, in retirement now, post career, the badge is now no longer there, and you're able to kind of help people get to where they need to be post career wise. Because I've seen a lot of really good friends, we fight PTSD during our careers, but now that we don't have this identity of, all right, so Monday I'm going to get to work, my shift is blah, blah, blah. And then when it's done, it's like, well, now what do I do? You have
Yeah,
to
everything's kind of
onboard.
defined. Everything's kind of defined for you, and it's easy to fall into place because you're used to structure and curriculum, and yeah, it's easy that way. So
Yeah.
when you wrap everything up in the badge or whatever, if your whole identity is your career, there's a place for that. It's important. But when you hang it up, then what? Are you able to break it into segments?
Run with it, dude. That's why we got you on the show. So I mean, kind of, why don't you walk us through sort of where you launched and the reason why you launched your platform and stuff like that?
This is all. I wish I could say I was some sort of expert at this. It's all still new to me.
Yeah, of course.
I retired in July of last year, and I knew I wanted to stay in the fitness world, and I wanted to continue in the fitness world in some manner. We were fortunate in that financially we're in pretty good shape. My wife is still working. I got a decent pension, and then retirement funds on top of that if I want. So I didn't have to jump into anything, but I decided as soon as beginning of last year, I got my yoga certification, so I became a yoga instructor. And then right after I retired in July, I got my personal trainer cert through ISA, which that included is like a nutritionist or something. You can give generalized advice. I can't tell you eat this, So I wanted to somehow get clients through personal training. And I started putting my name out there. I'm going to LA Fitness here, and there is there's kind of there's a top end to that. Like I'm trading time for, hours for money, and I can only do so much of that in a day. So I'm like, maybe if I get online, I could probably expand that. There's no roof to it. So I got in with a company to help me kind of take an online business and start going with it. And when I started doing that, the niche I picked with retired law enforcement or those about to retire, we started getting into more than just physical fitness. It started becoming, identity after the badge and that nervous system regulation. And this is what I'm struggling with right now still. Like I don't have it all figured out, but I'm working through it. So I started putting it out there, and man, I started getting a lot of feedback on it. And I got into this in order to do fitness stuff. I'm a meathead at heart.
Sure.
We started getting into guys with PTSD and nervous system regulation problems, that hypervigilance that doesn't turn off. So you got guys that are really lacking sleep, and like that's me. Like I still sleep like shit, and I'm 7 months into retirement. So I started getting into that, and then it's starting to pick up now. It's starting to grow, and people are reaching out and asking for help. And some guys, I have to say, like, look, man, what you need is more. I can't offer what you need. You need like therapy. You need somebody that is post-traumatic stress disorder and somebody that really understands that. Now, what I can do is if you're getting close to retirement and maybe you let yourself go a little bit, you're nervous about coming into it and what that identity is going to look like, I can help with that. And through a fitness perspective paradigm, then I can probably get you into that sleep regulation, into that nervous system regulation, into that mobility, considering the yoga and the personal training. So that's where I'm at right now.
Dude, it's amazing because I think you hit on it. So it's funny, is I've heard a lot of people actually talk about it. So me, I'm a different breed in the sense that I work Monday through Friday, 8 to 4 full time in the fire service. I have a very set, regulated set of hours because I'm on a combination department that serves a community of about 5,500, very small, 5,500 residents. And myself and the chief are the only two full-time staff that we have. She handles all the bureaucratic rather BS, and I get to handle all the other, small, fire code inspections, responding to calls and stuff like that. So I don't really have a lot of the sleep nonsense issues, but I have heard a lot of people who did the 24, 48-hour shifts, or even the different wonky, whether you do 8-hour shifts, but you shift rotations. What have you, I mean, and it's not even what have you found, or what do you surmise really ends or causes the sleep problems? I mean, so for you, were the sleep problems like throughout the career too, or did they really start to show themselves after?
No, it was, for me, it was during.
Okay, fair.
It's slightly better now after. But on the same token, I had a pretty charmed career in the sense that a career that has shift work. So let's say 3 or 4 shifts. Either that's like a day shift, a swing shift, and a midnight shift. And you're constantly changing. For most of my career, man, I was day shift.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
for the last in 2020, I promoted to canine supervisor, which was a Monday through Friday gig, 7 to 3. And then in 2024, I promoted to the special operations supervisor. So it's like a supervisor over supervisors and running the program. So what I think it is whether, even though I was in an office environment, I still put on a badge, a vest, and a gun every day to go to work.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
Did I get in a shootout every day? No. Did I get in a car chase every day? No. Did I get in a foot pursuit every day? No. However, I always had the radio on, because that's what you're supposed to do. And I always had the gun. I always had a long arm with me. And at any moment, it can pop off. And on occasion it does,
Sure.
and you have to be ready. And though nothing happens, that constant state of always being ready and always expecting something to happen around the corner, I think takes its toll on some people. And for me, there was a combination of that. And then when I started to pick up more responsibility, we were on call 24/7, because the dogs are going 24/7. So if there's an issue, I'm the first line they call. And when I first got that gig, I missed a couple calls because I was sleeping. Nothing bad happened, but I felt like shit that I missed a call, and like I'm responsible for somebody, and I missed those calls. So now I'm stressing out, like, oh God, don't miss this call. And I might set my alarm for 5 a.m. I still don't make it to 5. I'm getting up at 3:30. There's times I wake up and I'm like, oh man, please be in the fours, and I look over and it's like 3:18. I'm like, damn it.
Yeah.
So I think that's part of it. And now on the other side of that are guys that are out constantly getting in foot pursuits, constantly spiking cars, and getting in the shit. So there's that aspect of it too. So I think some people sleep like babies, and some of us don't.
Now, I gotta tell you, I love the phrase you used, a charmed career. That's really probably the best way I could explain mine too. Like I said, I'm a Monday through Friday 8 to 4, and we could refer to them as banker's hours, I suppose, but it definitely is. I'm very fortunate in it. One thing I can say that I miss the most, or I regret that I never got, and I have another 10 or 12 years in my career left, but I could probably go somewhere where I'd get on a 24-hour or a 48-hour shift or whatever the case is. And I've been into firehouses that have that, and it's that tight camaraderie that I'm like, oh man, that's really neat. We train in the morning, we go back and watch Maury Povich in the afternoon with lunch, and then you break bread for dinner all together at night. It's that aspect that I think is pretty neat. But I mean, yeah, it's the chemical dumps that we have. You go from 0 to 100, and like you said, you're always the heightened sense of at a moment's notice you can be going from, for an example, working on time cards to all of a sudden, like you said, you're in a foot pursuit, you're in a somebody spiked a vehicle and you need to go help with that, or, supervisor stuff, right? Something goes, completely south, and now you gotta, hell with time cards. We're gonna go and do something different now, or whatever the case is.
Yeah.
And it's,
Yeah.
I've heard a ton about the whole sleep thing. So, I mean, you touched a little bit on the nervous system regulation. How have you been able to kind of work your way in towards starting to regulate that for you, and maybe something for some guys that are, I'm thinking a lot of this episode is going to be really beneficial for those that are still either recently retired, like yourself, or somebody who, even myself included, I'm kind of starting to realize, yeah, I got probably a decade left, but it's really, it's time for me to start being like, what is JP going to be after I'm done my Monday to Friday? Because there's a lot of people that go, Friday is, oh my God, we got to, we have a building fire, to Monday, it's like, oh my God, the boys have a building fire type thing. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I guess if there's any suggestions, not only for that, I mean, I think I might have double questioned you there on this one by accident, but so
No, that's good.
let's attack nervous system regulation. Then we'll get back into some things that you've maybe found that work for you, or that, people can try to start doing to get ready for retirement, or as they have jumped into retirement recently.
It's funny because my wife has been a yoga instructor for years and years. And she told me all along that it's my nervous system. My nervous system not regulated. I'm stuck on all the time. I'm like, okay, so what do I have to do to fix that? And she's like, you got to do, well, yoga for one. So yoga is a whole total calming effect, and then breathing techniques, right? So, man, yoga is intrinsically like woo woo. So in this line of work with a bunch of alpha dudes that don't want to, like, they can solve all their own problems, man, nobody wants to listen to that shit. But now I'm just coming to the realization that I think that's what it is. And for me, the way I got there was through data. So
I might have lied.
I do a lot of sports and whatnot, and I live and die by my heart rate monitor. So I have a chest strap that I wear for everything, from if I'm swimming, if I'm running, if I'm doing jiu-jitsu. I'm wearing that heart rate monitor because I like to know where I'm at. And VO2 max is really important, right? So I picked up a heart rate monitor that will measure my HRV, so my heart rate variability. And if you have a really low number, it means you're probably not handling, your body is in fight or flight still. So the higher that number, the better off you are. Your body's able to handle stress a bit better. Now, my HRV is in the dump, man. I made a post about it where first time I did it, I'm 53 years old, and it's registering my physiological age as 71.
Okay. Yep.
Because my heart rate, my HRV is just in the dump. So how do you fix that? That's through breathing techniques. So meditation, which doesn't have to be like, it doesn't have to be some, like, I'm not looking for enlightenment, right? I'm just looking for a way to calm the nervous system down. So every morning, I got to start doing this at night. Man, habits are important. Sleep habits are important. And my wife has been preaching this for a while, and I hope she doesn't see this because I don't want her to know she was right. But so if I can start incorporating this at night, what I'll do now is I wake up in the morning, I'll go through like a 5-minute, just inhale, like try to do about 6 breaths per minute. So that's an inhale or maybe 5, inhale for 6, exhale for 6, and just keep that steady thing going and just try to clear your mind. Now, doing that at night before bed becomes really important. And this isn't just like, oh, I did it on Tuesday and I still slept like shit Wednesday. No, like you have to continue to do it to bring that regulation down, to calm the whole system down. Like I said, I'm just getting into this now and I'm seeing improvements. So yes, there's a bit of woo-woo, but if you can get through the woo-woo, you can dig into something that is beneficial to you. Now, yoga in and of itself, right? If you're breathing in the morning and breathing at night before bed, and then you find a yoga practice, or you can just do it yourself, long, slow stretches is generally yin yoga. I think that's where it's at. So you're holding each pose for like 5 minutes, and it's not necessarily like you're blasting your hamstrings or something, but you're melting into a pose. It's kind of difficult because you're clearing your mind. You're there for 5 minutes on one thing. So you're going through a little bit of discomfort, not quite pain, but a little bit of discomfort. Stick with it. And that helps the entire system as well. So a fair amount of stretching and breathing. And I'm gonna get better at this. So it's a work in progress.
Well, it is, and you're spot on. There's nothing worse than being a dude when it comes to, like, oh, that's so feminine. But dude, once you put that shit, and it's for me, the first thing that I have had to really, and I will openly admit, dude, I love going for a couples massage or even a
All right.
massage in general, because damn, dude, and there's something it's the self-care, it's some guys, we need to drop the masculinity and the stigma or the aura behind, well, that action or activity is feminine or it's masculine, and it's like, how about it's natural healing and health for the body. That's all that really freaking
I'm
matters.
still the same way with taking a bath, man. Bath Baths are so good, but I there's some I'm like, nobody's looking, right? Nobody's looking.
You're like, nobody's coming over tonight, right, babe? Okay, good. I'm gonna go.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
gonna go give me a bubbles bath.
Yeah, I got bubbles and everything.
There's you know what though, and there's so much behind that, and we could go off on a whole nother tangent on mental health. In either of our fields, where we've gotten in this predicament because we were, tuck it down, bury it, don't. That's
Yeah.
that's what the weak ones do, and we need to be strong. And it's like, no, it is absolutely okay to not be okay. And man, if yoga works, I myself have never done it, but truthfully, I've never really. It's one of those I've never looked either down upon it, or I've just been like, oh, yoga's a thing, type.
I hear it all the
stuff.
time, right? Like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm not flexible enough. Like, well, that's the whole point, right? It's not like guys with like my whole thing is about jiu-jitsu, and a ton of guys like, I got to get in shape. I'm gonna get in shape before I go do it. Like, you're not gonna get in shape and then miraculously go do it. It's not gonna help you. Like, you go do it, and you'll get in shape through the process, and you'll be fine. But like, you just keep putting it off. Like, oh, I'm not flexible. I can't do yoga. Like, that's the whole point of it. And that's the beauty of it, is there is no, listen, you might see some yoga pose and it's going to be some bendy chick or some bendy dude with a ponytail that can do all kinds of goofy things. Like, all right, yeah, that's yoga. That's true. But I would say for dum-dums like me who can barely touch their toes still, I mean, this is what that's the person yoga is meant for.
Yeah.
To help those guys get through it, right? So I would love to hit like the deepest expression of all these poses, but man, that's a career in that field, getting good at that. That's a whole nother entity.
It's I refer to people, so people don't find excuses, right? It's convenient complacency is what I call it. It's I'm gonna make excuses. I don't feel good. I can't stretch. And you're not wrong. I know you would put in your intake, so let's just talk on jiu-jitsu for a little bit. So I mean, how has that kind of helped? Is that more of a stress relief for you, or is that just about
listen, when you
and stuff like that?
I've been doing it for a really long time, but have you ever done it before?
I've never done it, honest to God.
Are you familiar with it? And I mean, it's a form of grappling.
Yeah, familiar enough. Yeah, yep.
And you're submitting people. You put people into submission either through chokes or joint locks of some sort. And you tap, and that essentially signifies like, I would have got killed in the real world. Let's start over.
All right.
But when you are fighting for your life, right? You're like, you got somebody on top of you that's trying to break your arm, or somebody's trying to choke you or crush you or break a kneecap. You don't think about anything but what's going on right there at that moment. So it's kind of like a little bit it's like chess in motion,
Sure.
And
yep.
As far as stress relief goes, yes, it's fantastic, and it's just an outlet for me. And I think everybody should do jiu-jitsu. Not only that, but I think all law enforcement should be probably at least a purple belt to do this, because like other people are relying on you to be there for them. And just because whatever, I got a couple black belts, and I'm probably still get my ass kicked by somebody somewhere. Guaranteed. Well, I mean, obviously I can, but at the very least, I'm somewhat prepared to help you if you need help in the field. And the last thing I'd hate to see is like a complacent pig pen of a cop backing me up somehow. It just kind of pisses me off. So I think everybody should be doing jiu-jitsu, not even if you're especially if you're in law enforcement, but just like
Yeah.
it adds so much to your life because to get beat down all the time and like you start as a white belt and you're just getting your ass beat, and then you become a blue belt and you still get your ass beat, and then you're a purple belt. All right, maybe you beat up a couple people, but you're still getting your ass beat.
Yeah.
A brown belt, you become a black belt, and nothing changes. It's just this like the pool of people you can beat becomes a little bit bigger. But I still get my ass beat every day, and it's fun. It's fun, and it's not humil. Well, it is humiliating, but it builds humility
Yes.
and
Yep.
modest. Hopefully, it builds modesty, man. But there's a lot of benefits to it. It's great.
Well, I think I love your analogy that it's sort of like, you know, an active chess match, because you really do have to. I mean, again, from a layman's terms, and if I'm speaking out of my ass, please stop me. You're like, if I go for this move, they could go for that. You almost have to be like a one step ahead thing. So that really, that's where the mental toughness comes in, I would assume, right?
There's a counter to the counter to the counter,
Mm.
and you know you get. I've gone against some good guys that like a knee on belly, for example. Like it's just they're kneeling on your chest, they're pulling your head up and pulling your hips up and bending you in half over their knee, and you can't breathe. It's humiliating,
Yeah.
and you want relief. So the way to get relief is to tap and just start over, right? But like, there's a whole thing like, duh, you don't tap to pressure. Like the hell I can't breathe. I remember
Yeah.
there was this Brazilian dude back in Virginia, and he's like 180 pounds, but he felt like he weighed 380, and
Yeah.
he'd get pressure on you, and he would figure out where to be. Is that each time you exhaled, he'd take a little bit more air out of you, and then finally you're not breathing, and you're tapping, and he's like, no, we don't tap the pressure. I'm like, the fuck we don't, man. This is hard.
I'm gonna fucking die if I don't tap.
Right. But what ultimately happens is you learn over time to kind of deal with that stress, to deal with that discomfort, to breathe through it, and it just makes you, I think, better all the way around and more capable of dealing with situations.
Well, I mean, given your line of profession, I mean, if firemen tend to find ourselves in that predicament, we probably did something real bad, or we're where we really shouldn't be. But for you, I mean, you could quite literally be trying to put somebody just to detain them from, maybe even to prevent them from harming themselves, let alone, you know. So you have to be able to kind of understand like what they're going to do, and where this, you know, this manipulation will help them kind of agree to get, you know, to get in the back of the car, whatever the case is. So there's a lot to be said about it. No, that's really cool, dude. I what was I gonna do? I love it. I think, you know, we hit the central nervous system stuff. I mean, fitness wise, what have you found to kind of keep yourself motivated? Because sometimes it can be pretty, I don't want to say routine, but you know, the same workout every day can be, you know, if you're always chewing at the same apple every day, it gets kind of boring. So what have you found that kind of helps, you know, a cycle for you to, you know, today's this day, or today, you know, like Monday's leg day, or whatever the case is, but just kind of to keep it fresh, you know, for everybody that needs to be and wants to be, you know, physically active.
For me, like I'll go through phases of heavy lifting. Like I got little chicken legs. So like for the last few years, I've been working my ass off to build my legs up. And man, like my legs ain't spectacular, but compared to what they were, oh my God, there's so much respect for these dudes that are like really thickly muscled. And you're like, how the hell did they get there, man? So I understand the work that goes into it. So for me, it was like if I follow a Wendler 5-3-1 program. So it's basically just deads, squats, bench, and overhead press. And I'll go through a couple months of that. And then for example, I had a match, one-off, like a super fight, they call it, last weekend. So building up to that, I stopped the heavy lifting, and then I really concentrated on building my VO2 max. And there's like this thing called the Norwegian 4x4 protocol. And so I started working on my VO2 max to get it up so I could not die 3 minutes into this round. And so I started working on VO2 max, and then a lot of like farmer carries and stuff like that. So I mix it up between going heavy on cardio and conditioning, and then heavy on lifting. So, and I'm kind of mix those up. And then maybe I'll go through a kettlebell phase here and there. But you do have to mix it up because, and it's right about the time right about the time I'm plateauing with strength, where I can't safely do more on squats for what's heavy for me. That's right about the time I start to burn out a little bit. And then I
Right.
switch it up, and then I go do something else. And then I come back and I try to build that strength back again. But a good combination of strength and cardio.
I love it. I'm just recently out of the gastric bypass, limited to light duty. So I mean, I got to tell you, my energy level is there. But it's funny. I've tried every fad diet that's out there prior to finally just doing this. And somebody asked me one day, like, you've done a JP, and you've done all of them. You name the insert. I've even done the weight loss management meds, and I mean, those actually worked really well for me. The problem was the insurance that we have at the town level. They're like, oh, we don't cover the shots no more, but you can get them out of pocket if you want. And I was like, man, it's $700 something a month. Really can't afford that.
For what was that, like Ozempic or something?
It was Zepbound, and I mean, and it worked. It was great. I think I was on it from my November of a couple of years ago to April of the year following, and it was like 40 pounds. It was good, slow loss. Appetite
is that considered a peptide? Is that like a shot a day type thing?
Yeah, shot a day. Yeah.
Yeah.
And and it's funny because I mean, I was so into paying attention. It was a shot a week, rather, just a one shot a week.
Okay.
So they recommend either your the back of your arms, your stomach, or your thighs. And I actually rotated where I was, doing the shots, because some people were like, oh, I had a lot of success in, the back of my arms. And of course, dude, I'm like, I remember, one of the biggest high school, playground type pranks we used to play is pinching everybody in the back of their arms, because it's such a painful damn spot. So I'm like, I don't know about the back of my arm.
Yeah.
But it long story short, it worked. But when the insurance company's like, yeah, so we're not going to cover it anymore, as far as this month, blah blah blah, because it's expensive. And I get it from a business standpoint. If my copay is only $25 and it's $700 out of pocket to pay for it, I'm like, well, I mean, they are footing a pretty heavy bill for the med.
Yeah.
So
How much you paying into them each month?
So it's true though, right? I mean, God, my pay in every month was about $500-600 a month, pre-tax, right? So that
yeah, don't feel bad for them, man.
I was, don't get me wrong, dude. When I got the letter, I was like, oh, I'm gonna fight City Hall. I'm taking this to Congress. I was, and then after a while, I'm like, what am I really gonna get at it? Like nothing, right?
Right.
Whatever. And the part that sucks is the way they insure. So our town uses a company that's a trust, and they basically own the monopoly in the state of New Hampshire for insurance. And they cover whether it be first responders, police, fire, EMS, DPW, Department of Public Works, DOT, state offices. It's basically they have a large buy-in power, and they're tied with Anthem Blue Cross. And long story short, it was one of those. So of course I'm like, I'm going to write the board, because the board it's comprised of, stakeholders. It's all these fellow firefighters, police officers, just people in general. So I'm like, these are like, my colleagues. So I'm like, dude, like, why not cover, but I ultimately did. There's not, that one was one of those, there wasn't enough fighting the dog. And then I finally realized, I'm like, so you'll cover my gastric bypass. And I just got the explanation of benefits for it, dude. It was like a $25,000 operate. Like after, like, of course, you get the big bill and it's like 67. And then there's the, because I went in-house, there was the discount. And then it was a total of like 21,000 or 25,000 that it was. But I'm like, now they're covering all of my doctor's visits with my nutritionist, the clinical staff. They're all covered. And those are like $200 to $300 a piece. And I go every couple of months. So I'm like, it's going to be a while before. I mean, if I happen to knock off between now and like the next 10 years, they didn't get their money's worth out of me. That's all I can say.
Well, I would say don't sleep on the junk mail when it comes to the insurance stuff, because you got time for a quick story?
Hell yeah, I do. Yeah, we always got time.
So when my wife was pregnant with the youngest, and this is in 2009, and we lived in Blythe, California, and the hospital was in Palm Springs, which is about 2 hours away. They didn't have a OBGYN in Blythe.
Yep.
So we had to go the 2 hours to get there when her water broke. So I was like, damn it, man. So the water broke. We jumped in my little Golf, and I I grabbed my gun and badge, and she had the book on how to give birth in a car, in case that happens. And I'm flying, and I get up next to a trooper, and I was like, damn it, man. So I pull up next to him, CHP, and I'm like, hey, just put my badge on the window and be like, hey, I don't know. And so she puts the book up. She puts the book up and the badge, and I look at him, and I'm like, we good? And he just looks at me, and I was like, all right, well, fuck it. And I took off. He pulls me over, and I'm like, bro, I'm looking for a courtesy here. I apologize. My wife's in a high risk delivery state. We got to get her out to Palm Springs.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, God, hey, I can see him. He's like, damn, I thought this was gonna be an easy one. He's like, follow me up to this road. So we go forward about, it was a few miles, and they had an ambulance there waiting, and we get off.
No way.
So we get there, but the road was closed. They were doing construction. This is like 8 o'clock at night. They were doing construction, so road was closed both ways on I-10. And we get there, and they're checking her out, and they're like, no, she's pretty dilated. I'm like, well, this is a high risk delivery. She's got to be near an OR. They call the hospital, and the hospital's like, we'll send a helicopter. So they send a helicopter out. They pick her up. I was like, oh man, I jump back into traffic and I wait. And it took me another 2 hours to get there. And I remember her mom saying like, hey, Carl, I'm so sorry you're going through this. I'm like, no, I'm good, man. She's in good hands. Nothing I could do for her. So she's in a flying ambulance right now. So she's good. And ultimately we get there and everything's fine. And then a few weeks pass, and, I'm throwing away junk mail here and there.
Sure.
And then the helicopter company calls, and they send a bill, and the bill was $23,000. And I was like, you guys aren't going to pay for any of this? I call insurance, and I'm like, you guys don't cover any of that? They're like, well, we sent you a brochure a few weeks back. It was like 4 questions. I'm like a shiny brochure? They're like, yeah. I go, yeah. I thought it was junk mail, man. I threw it away. Can you send it again? And she's like, I could just ask you the 4 questions right now. And it was like the most generic, stupid questions. So I answer them, and it was like $400. It cost $400 out of pocket.
No way, dude. That's awesome.
Yeah, it was like, holy Jesus! Like, don't sleep on those junk mails.
Yeah, they I don't want to say that it's a scheme, but it's a scheme, because it all boils down to the more money that they can save from spending, the more money that goes into their pockets. And
right.
Like I said, I mean, there was not enough fight in this dog. We did try like the appeal process, and they're like, well, the med's not really proven to work, but there are these other ones that exist. And I'm like, I mean, not proven to work. Like, I lost 40 pounds in from November to April. So we're talking 6 months. I'm like, that's a pretty damn good weight loss. And, so clearly they're like, well, we don't know the long-term effects. And I'm like, well, do we ever really know the long-term effects? I mean,
right.
So right now I'm finally been cleared to get back to work. And I mean, my energy level's been great, because I've lost everything that I lost leading up to the Zepbound. I'm at it now post bariatric, and I hit bariatric in January. So, I mean, obviously a more expeditious weight loss, but for me, it's the trying to keep the muscle tone intact. And it's funny you talk about, beefier legs. As a bigger guy, I always had some pretty good, like those were always my more defined muscles, or my leg muscles. And because I'm losing so much so fast, my legs are like, they're not as strong as they used to be. So it's definitely, I'm a new person. And I almost feel like I now see where like our grandparents were, like, I'm not as good as I used to be type thing, because I'm definitely like, damn, I remember that not being a pain, or being so much a pain in my ass. So I love hearing people's workout regimens, because it can be such a pain to not get stale, all the time.
Yeah. I try to mix up stuff. I try to get 10,000 steps a day. I try to go for a ruck every once in a while. I take the dog with me. So just a 40-pound Alice pack, and then just go hit the trails.
Dude, I think it's great. Perfect. I do. We're on to something. I think I did put a question here, and I probably should have maybe given more context. So I hope you can remember making the video, because it was a video that you posted, and it was the 3 signs that you're not prepared for retirement. And I was going to have you talk on that. I meant to put a note on it because I forgot what they were, because this is how it works for me. That's why I have a 2-letter first name.
Yeah, it's funny. That's what I'm drawing a blank on it too.
Yeah, it was. I think you probably honestly did. You probably whacked it already.
Let me see. I might have it printed out somewhere.
Yeah, because there's a ton, right? And I think part of it, honestly, is just not having your portfolio ready to go for retirement, whether it be a lot of people don't, at least in New Hampshire, they recommend 6 to 12 months before you're ready to retire that you actually start the paperwork for it.
Yeah, so we couldn't do it any sooner than 4 months. Any sooner than 4 months. But yeah, they started a whole new system. I was one of the first ones to go through the new system, and man, I mean, there was a whole thing like through, if you paid attention to Elon Musk and him with Doge and all these things they were finding, and all the federal retirement system being done in a mountain with files like paperwork, and nothing is electronic. So they were still filing all of these guys' retirement paperwork, like with hand and pen, and it was taking forever. And they're like, we got to fix this. I think it was like 1950s they were doing this. And I was one of the first ones where everything was put together electronically.
Mm-hmm.
And there were horror stories of guys retiring from BP, and they don't get their first pension check for, man, it might over 6 months maybe.
Holy
so
Jesus.
I was 4 weeks in, and I could cash out my accumulated annual leave. So I had like a good 500 hours that I kind of turned in, I saved. So that's going to be a check for, whatever, 25 grand or something like that. And I got a deposit in my account for $2,000. So I was assigned somebody out of DC to be my retirement guru. So I called her and I was like, hey, I don't know. I received $2,000 in my account. I know it's from the federal government, but it doesn't say why. And I'm only 4 weeks into retirement, so it doesn't seem like my first pension should have come through.
Sure.
And she's like, well, maybe it's your retirement. I'm sorry, maybe it's your annual leave. And I'm like, well, I hope not, because I'm cashing in 500 hours. It certainly better be worth more than $2,000.
More than that.
And she's like, well, she's like, I don't know. I'm like, okay, so this is my first time retiring. I was assigned to you to answer my retirement questions. I ask you and you don't know. So I mean, if you had any questions about the federal government and the way it works, nothing changes. From the time I was working, nobody had an answer, to now I'm retired and nobody has an answer. So nothing's changed, in case you were wondering. She's like, well, call OPR, the Office of Personal Resource, whatever OPR stands for. So I call them and they're like, yeah, we don't know. I'm like, how does nobody know this? Like, somebody put $2,000 in my account. It turns out that with the new system, it cycled through so quickly that nobody was aware. And the first partial pension came through and nobody knew it. And she's like, no, this is the first we've heard of it going through this quickly. So I'm like, well, I guess that's good for me then.
Yeah, jeez. Man, not having, oh my gosh, that's too funny.
Yeah, I don't have that, the 3, how you know you're not ready. I don't have that one locked and loaded.
Yeah,
no
worries.
I'd have to get on the phone to be able to look it up.
Hell yeah, no. I mean, we can throw it in the thing. Awesome, dude. I think the only other question that I had preloaded, so I had four questions, and everything else came just through conversation, which is great. It means it was a good convo. So it revolves around retirement. So what? We kind of talked a little about, the leading up to it, but what are some steps that those in the service can take now to prepare for retirement in the future?
So I know for the guys in BP, for example, it's drilled into their head about getting ready financially, getting your thrift savings plan or your TSP ready to go well ahead of time. If you're about to retire and you're starting to look into it, it's probably too late. So everybody's done a pretty good job at staying on top of it. So financially, guys hit retirement in pretty good shape. What happens is, if they don't stay on top of it physically, they kind of let themselves go that last 5 years, and you kind of picked up this sedentary lifestyle. Unless you're a real go-getter and you're still out hiking and hoofing it and tracking people down. Otherwise, you're just sitting in your cruiser on midnights, and you're not doing anything. So I think the biggest thing you can do to prepare yourself is start getting in shape now. And it's three basic things, right? And it's just strength, mobility, and that woo-woo breathing, HRV, getting your nervous system regulated before hitting retirement, and then continuing that into retirement. Physical preparation, and it doesn't have to be like I'm doing Olympic lifts and Olympic records for weight and whatnot.
Yeah, of course.
Just resistance training to stay up on it so that you're and staying mobile so you can get up off the ground. It's crazy, right? Like your ability to carry things and your ability to get up off the ground when you have to is so important later on. And you don't think about it when you're 50 because you still feel pretty young. But a lot of guys will be like, "Oh, I'm 50, oh, my aches and pains." Yeah, I mean, I'm 53. I feel it a bit, and I beat the hell out of my body with jiu-jitsu and everything. And I stick with the strength training. I stick with the trying to build my VO2 max, and I stick with the mobility stuff. I think those are the three most important things to do before you hit your final day.
I love it. All right. Perfect, man. Well, we have one question that we ask everybody. It's a leadership question, but it's our boilerplate question. So what would be your unadulterated and raw piece of advice for somebody that's just starting their way into the leadership of their, enter field here. It doesn't matter whether it's the law enforcement or fire service. What would be your unadulterated advice for them?
You're talking becoming a new, for example, a new agent or somebody entering a leadership role as an agent?
So yes, somebody who, they're just a regular boots on the ground kind of guy, and they want to start working their way into becoming a leader within the organization.
So there's, I know with Border Patrol, there's a lot of different ways to do it. And if you're going to be like a first level supervisor, which means you're on shift and you're making decisions for other agents, then one thing, is it a requirement? Do you need it? No, but it is the one thing like the agents respect the most. And it's guys that have been in the field and guys that go out and actually work. If you're just a number cruncher, and there's a place for that too.
Sure.
And if you're a number cruncher and then you're going to go tell salty dudes what to do in the field, it's not going to be received well. So make sure you are prepared for the role that you are putting in for. So I mean, I was always in the field working, but I wasn't somebody you consider like, I think I was just unlucky, but I was always out there working. And when I got into the supervisory roles, it was through K9. And my entire career was K9. I knew K9 and then ultimately ran the program. Yeah, if you're going to be a number cruncher, there's a totally different route to take for there.
Sure.
And there's a place for that. Also, once you get up past like second level supervisory positions, and I know this is how it works in BP, so I don't know about other law enforcement per se, but when you start getting up into the higher level management, man, be prepared to wear your trauma plate on your back, man. And I don't know why it happens, but maybe, I don't want to say people change, but I was up there, like I got to second level and then I was acting third level. So I was up in the Golden Palace and I'm walking around with the chiefs and the A chiefs, and it's a different animal up there. And I was up there for 3 months, man, and it nearly broke me. Like it was terrible. Like I had one guy that hated me, and just this guy threw me out to pasture 6 months before I retired. And man, I could do a whole hour on this, but yeah, that's what it was like up there. And everybody's walking on eggshells. Nobody knows how to act anymore. Nobody wants to say the wrong thing.
Yep.
And the politics involved, man, if you're going to go up that high, make sure you're ready for it. Make sure you know the game. Outside of that, just know what you're applying for. If you're going to apply for a position overlooking boots on the ground, make sure you were boots on the ground.
Dude, I love it. Awesome, dude. Well, thank you so much for the last hour, a little over an hour now of conversation. To our listeners and everybody out there, if somebody wants to kind of follow you across the social media platforms and stuff like that, what's your handle and stuff like that?
At Code 4, so CODE the number 4 retirement, so Code 4 retirement on TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook.
Thank you for spending time with us today on the Passionate Leader podcast. If something today hit, don't sit on it, share it. Follow the Passionate Leader across all platforms and pull up a chair every Sunday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on TikTok Live. where leadership meets the kitchen table and real talk drives real change. If you want deeper conversations and first access to exclusive offers, join us on Patreon and step into the inner circle. As always, be the kind of leader someone else is praying for, and no matter what comes your way, remember this: lead with passion, serve with humility, and leave no room for bottom feeders. Until we see each other again, guys, stay safe.